It was my freshman year of college. I was in Chicago. I was an acting major at DePaul University, the theater school. Classes hadn't even begun. It was my first time trying marijuana. So smoking the cannabis had triggered something for me, and it was very, very frightening. The world was like a puppet world, and people were like puppets. And I experienced what Western medicine calls derealization disorder. Everything I was hearing was very almost dark and just scary. I needed to get to a safe space to where I could be in a controlled environment, and I managed to get back to my dorm room. Anyway, I was sitting in the bed, and I felt a surge of heat, and it surged all the way up the center of my body, and I felt it. It was so hot. And this is when the Kundalini awakening happened.
He doesn't believe your spiritual power should be handed over to anyone, not a guru, not a system, and definitely not an organization. Dr. Papa-yoni Das grew up in Gary, Indiana, where he was passionate about acting, music, and comedy. But at the age of 18, a sudden spiritual emergency, a Kundalini awakening, changed the trajectory of his life, and his passion for acting and comedy and music instantly evaporated. Today, Papa-yoni is a spiritual leader, a djinn, and a thingamagician, both of which you'll learn about in our conversation. And he is known for his unconventional spiritual teachings, handcrafted spiritual tools, and an uncompromising message of spiritual sovereignty. In this episode, we'll explore what sovereignty really means and how reclaiming it can radically change the way that you heal, grow, and evolve. I'm your host, David Trotter. Welcome to the Awaken Magazine podcast. Papa-yoni, it is great to see you. Great to be with you. Thanks for joining us.
It's great to be here. Thank you for having me, David.
Yeah, I want to hear about what you call a spiritual emergency that you had at the age of 18. Where were you living? What was life all about for you? What happened?
Well, it was my freshman year of college. I was in Chicago. I'm originally from Gary, Indiana. And so it was a hop, skip, and a jump from my hometown.
A lot of incredible athletes come out of Gary, Indiana. I don't know what it is about that city, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Something in the water. We got the best water in the country. I was an acting major at DePaul University, the theater school. And just one day I had a Kundalini awakening, and I knew nothing about the chakras. I knew nothing about Kundalini. It's just in hindsight, through my research and my studies and dealing with the what at the time was an ordeal.
Where were you when this happened?
I was in it started visiting some like classmates of mine. It was the first week. It wasn't even school hadn't even started yet. Classes hadn't even begun, and we were just hanging out. And it had come on. I don't know if you want me to talk about
Tell everything.
everything.
What happened? Yeah.
Okay, so some people have a certain predisposition to certain substances. And so we had, it was my first time trying marijuana.
Okay.
Yeah. So smoking the cannabis had triggered something for me, and it was very, very frightening. And so that's when I tell people, when they buy my Kundalini keys, I tell them, don't wear this while you're under the influence of cannabis, because both can stimulate the Kundalini energy. So anyway, I knew nothing about all that at the time, and I managed to get back to my dorm room, and I'm sitting up in bed.
Physiologically, though, tell me what's happening.
Okay, well, while I was out with the friends, it was like the world was like a puppet world, and people were like puppets, and I experienced what Western medicine calls derealization disorder. And it was just everything I was hearing was very kind of almost dark and just scary. And like I know one example, we were walking back to the dorm room, my roommate, and he was talking, and I was just trying to keep my mind together. And he said, we're going to run this school, is what he said. And what I heard was, we should run in the street. And he said, no, no. So yes, it was very scary. I needed to get to a safe space to where I could be in a controlled environment. So when I did get into my dorm room and I'm alone, I'm sitting in the bed, and this is when the Kundalini awakening happened. I'm sitting cross-legged, and I keep getting up from the bed and walking around, reality testing. Seeing certain markers where I left things to make sure it was real. I was in this stable environment; it wasn't changing without my making things change. Anyway, I was sitting in the bed, and I felt a surge of heat in my groin. It was like my coccyx and my groin, and it surged up my central column, what I know now as the Shushumna, and it surged all the way up the center of my body, and I felt it. It was so hot, and it went up into my chest and in my throat chakra. I know now, and up into my third eye, and then it stopped at the base of my skull, and it was just radiating throughout my skull. And I said, "Oh my God, what's going on?" And I got in the shower and I turned on the cold water. I had never taken a cold shower before, but I got in that cold shower just because I'm like, what? I have to wake out of this. Well, the residual effects of this Kundalini awakening, it lasted the entire first quarter of my college career, and it was very off-putting. It wasn't that extreme as that night, but I had the residual effects. I felt I was going through what Western medicine calls depersonalization disorder, and so my motor skills were kind of off. If I, like, let's say I wanted to go and reach into my pocket and get something out of my pocket, I really had to focus to get it back out, because my kinesthetic responses were very I was very hyper aware of things. Let's say if someone brushed up against me, I would feel it for the next 5 minutes. So if five people brush up against me, let's say we're at a party now, then I'm going into sensory overload.
Did you go to the doctor? Did you talk to people? What happened?
No, I didn't go to the doctor about this. I did go to a doctor about a pain that I was having around my appendix area. And when I went in there for that, they gave me a test that said that I had severe depression. They're gonna get you to try and so they tried to get me on antidepressants. Um, and so I didn't take the antidepressants until my winter break. And I said, if ever there's a time, I'm going to go ahead and take their advice and take this antidepressant, because they think I'm severely depressed, but it wasn't. They were misreading the depersonalization and derealization disorder effects. So after having taken the antidepressants, I didn't sleep for 2 weeks straight. And when you don't sleep for 2 weeks straight, things become exacerbated, right? Issues that you're having like that. So I had to take a year off from school because 2 days after winter break ended, my family took me to the hospital to have a prolonged stay. And being in the hospital for 2 weeks, they had to take me out of school. Otherwise, I would have failed, and I had to resume the very next years to start back where I left off. So I had a year in between where I was able to acclimate to all these extra sensory things that began to crop up, and it was open, and I had experiences with the gin, and it was a lot. Have I answered your question?
You're getting there. So your family was coming at this from a mental health perspective,
Yes. Yes.
and you went into, I assume, a mental health hospital
Yes.
for a couple weeks.
Yes.
I went through this was not connected to a spiritual awakening. My life was falling apart in 2008 by my own choices, and I checked into a mental hospital for several days. That was very, very helpful for me, just a stabilization. Um, so you come out of the hospital, and how do you start to see this experience as more of a spiritual awakening rather than a mental health breakdown? Or maybe it was simultaneous. I'm not sure.
It was spiritual for me the entire time, and I was telling my family the whole quarter that something was wrong, something was off, and they just didn't wanna see it, and so they didn't really get me help until it was severe, And I could talk about the day that I was admitted. Nothing bad happened, but they couldn't ignore it anymore. Um,
Did you have a spiritual upbringing prior to this that informed any of these experiences?
Not at all, not at all. But I will say what sort of made me predisposed to this Kundalini awakening, and uh, what I've gathered since then was actually a czar possession, so to speak, was my inclination towards androgyny. I had to wear uniforms all throughout high school, and when I graduated, I just started putting it on. I was wearing all types of clothes, and most of them were from the women's department. And I liked makeup. I was getting into makeup, and so merging the masculine and the feminine at that crucial time, 18, coming into a new world, it was the perfect storm for me to experience a czar possession, especially with the cannabis. It left me open to a czar possession.
When you're saying czar, help me understand that. I ask questions out of a learning posture, so I'll ask you questions the whole way where I'm like, what does that mean? How do you spell czar, and what does that mean?
Czar is ZAR, and it's like a jinn.
Hmm.
So jinn possession. And I'm explaining how it occurred, how it happened over time in my life.
Hmm.
This stuff was predestined, right?
Mm.
It's just the way it came about. But that was my first, I could say, interaction with the world of the jinn and the astral plane was, dealing with androgyny and then substances, and the two, colliding.
Mhm.
And so yes, it was a czar possession, and then which triggered the Kundalini awakening.
Okay. So, and I know you've written in the latest issue of Awaken magazine, our special print edition, you wrote a whole article on gens. And so, gen and czar are interchangeable, those two words.
Yes, yes.
Okay. What is a gen? Help educate those of us, including me, who are just learning about this. What is a gen, and what does it mean to be possessed by a gen?
So a jinn is an entity of the astral world.
Hmm.
The jinn, they regulate our energetic body, the chakras, all the nadis in the body.
Hmm.
They regulate all of that, and they interact with us on that level. And most would say that the jinn are evil. Most would say that the czar are evil, and there are czar ceremonies for healing the czar. And one thing about the czar, you can't really exercise them. You can't get rid of a czar. You can only appease the czar. You can only work with the czar. They're there with you for the rest of your life.
Mm.
Sort of like what they call a kareen. A kareen means constant companion. It's a jinn that a person is born with. And they say that everyone is born with a kareen. Everyone has a jinn assigned to them at birth, but there are many jinn that interact with us on the energetic plane. I've seen them, and I consciously interact with them. So yes, the jinn, they just regulate our energetic bodies.
Go ahead. You wrote in the article that culturally people can misconstrue this as like a genie in a bottle.
Yes.
Is that like a cultural way of misrepresenting this? Is this right?
Yes, Disney, that whole Disney Aladdin type thing. Um, it's more of an anglicized version of Jinn. Um, it's really Jinn, and some people spell it Djinn. That's better than genie. Uh, but yes, every culture has their own Jinn. By the way, in Europe, they often call them elves. These are Jinn. There's no difference. It's
Okay.
a cultural, a different way of saying it, but the elves are Jinn.
Yeah. I am going to bounce. I feel like I'm bouncing all over the place here because, what comes to me is, and please know these are questions out of curiosity. That's what I always bring to the table. The way that you're dressing even today, and when I've seen you in person, if I were ignorant, which I am, uh, I would say, "Oh my gosh, he looks like a genie."
And I
right?
love that. I love that. And I love, own our ignorance, The one who says they know everything, they know nothing. The one who says they know nothing, they have an, opportunity to learn. So
But yeah. So, I mean, we're going to get into your own story because I want to hear, how this is all unfolded for you. But even the way that you choose to dress now in this season of life, what does that um, mean to you? What are you communicating through your dress?
I'm communicating androgyny. I'm communicating the merging of the masculine and the feminine, that union. And I'm freedom, autonomy, sovereignty, and regal. I think it looks regal.
Yes.
And I always wear a peacock over my
Peacock,
third eye.
right.
Yes, and that's for Talcy Davy. And we'll get into that, I'm sure.
What do you call what is on your head?
I call it a turban.
Okay,
Hmm.
it looks great. And
Thank
do you
you.
make those yourself or do you purchase those? Because I know you have quite a few.
Yes, I have quite a few, and I don't make them. I make neither the turban nor the brooch is what it is.
Mhm,
But that could be a thing that I look into in the future.
mhm.
People have said that I should.
Where do you purchase them?
Well, my brooches, I purchase them from all over. And I have some, very special like collector's pieces. There's a guy named Nolan Miller, and he's made some special peacock brooches. Some of them $100, plus or whatever. Um, but I have just the ones that look and resonate with me. I keep most dear to me.
Mhm. Do you, dress in this regal fashion all the time
All the
or all the time?
At the gym.
You go to the gym with a turban on.
Yes. Unless I'm doing something to where I don't want to, like, it's messing with the back of my head, um, then I won't. Like, I can't have it too bulgy if I'm doing chest day, bench press, because that'll mess up the alignment of my neck. But yes, typically I go just like this. I won't have this big sort of dress on. I'm just going to call it a dress. That's what it was designed as. Uh, I would typically call it a kurta, or tunic or something like that. But
And what is the response that you get from I mean, you're a muscular big guy, so I doubt people are gonna, you know, mock they're not gonna mock you. If I walked in there, they're gonna be like, "What is this, you weirdo?" Right? What is the response that you get from people?
it's generally very positive. Even people, big muscle bound people, they respect it. People respect when they see you living authentically, when they see you expressing yourself, especially when it's different. And they know that I'm putting myself in a vulnerable position. But to be able, again, it's going back to that, the merging of the dualities. I'm a strong guy, I'm a fit guy. So for me to voluntarily put myself in what could be considered a compromising position, taking more of a position of what's a lot of people deem weaker, you know, but I'm breaking all stereotypes. I'm breaking the idea of feminine being weaker or what have you. I'm accepting it, I'm promoting it, and people appreciate it.
I gotta tell you, I'm jealous. Like, not necessarily of this particular style that you embody, but I'm jealous of the, uh unabashed, just embodiment of who the creativity, right? Because a lot of what you're expressing is not, there's a spiritual element to it, but it is a massive amount of creativity that you're allowing to flow through you. And to break, norms, I'm jealous. Like it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful.
Jai, thank you. Well, you're doing your thing. You're expressing creatively, and that's an imperative. That is a human imperative, to express and expand through your expressions, right? Because if you don't, and I've experienced it, even I myself have suppressed,
Yes.
or have been oppressed, repressed some of my expressions, and it made me ill physically.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I grew up in a family in Kentucky where my family was very utilitarian, very practical fashion, self expression was just not on the table at all. I grew up in a very conservative Christian family. It was just very practical. And so I even remember one story that was just it's not tender for me at this moment, but there was one moment, and I grew up in the 80s, where I had these sunglasses that had these like crazy colors on them, and there was like this thing that went around your neck to hold the glasses, total 80s. And I remember my dad was like, "Hey, we're going to go to the store." And I said, "Oh, wait a second. I want to get my sunglasses." And I remember in that moment a directness where he said, "Are you getting your sunglasses because you actually need them or because you're trying to just look cool?" And it was like so soul crushing. And I've got kids that are in their 20s now, and I'm sure I said soul crushing things not knowing, in the process. But that was such a soul crushing defining moment to go, "Oh, it's not okay to express yourself. It's not okay to right, have this freedom." And so, that's been a lifetime of journey for me, but I just see that in you and admire that, in you. So, I wanna go back to, because 'cause we're getting so off track, how you started cultivating your gifts, educating yourself, like, how did this unfold to where you are today?
Okay. So, excuse me. After my spiritual emergency, and I do call it that. I got that from a Stanislav Grof book, Stormy Search for the Soul. And he's put it in, there's actually a book he has called Spiritual Emergency. But as opposed to a spiritual emergence that's gradual and love and light and very easy and flowy, it was in no way easy or flowy. It was jarring, alarming, and frightening. But I wouldn't change it because it's made me who I am today. It was my catalyst. But after that, I had all of these experiences, extrasensory, and I really didn't care about acting anymore. And that's a big thing to say because that's all I cared about in high school. That's what kept me going. That's how I got into a top 10 acting school, is because that's all I cared about. And had my spiritual emergency not happened, I'd probably be in Hollywood, big name, lots of money, very famous. I'd probably be an a-hole, right? Because I didn't have a sense of responsibility for the things I was saying on stage. I was also doing stand-up comedy at the time. I was also making music. The biggest music video I have to date is called Twerk Team. And so it's very funny. Um, but is it really bringing anything to the world other than joy and laughter? And that's great. People enjoyed it. But I just had a sense of wanting to go deeper, wanting to learn more. Um, so that is when I started studying the metaphysical realm. University of Sedona. That's actually where I've earned my PhD in conscious centered living. I studied shamanism. The Life Force Art Center in Chicago has to have certification in shamanic practice. But one event that really let me know this stuff is real, because I've always sort of believed it, but had no firsthand experience of things of spirits and like that. Would you like to hear the story?
Of course. That's why we're here.
Okay. So I was again expressing my androgyny. I found a group in Chicago called the Center on Halsted. Halsted, it was in Lakeview and in a neighborhood called Boys Town. So Boys Town is the gay community in Chicago.
Mhm.
And the Center on Halsted, it was a place for LGBTQIA plus youth to come and convene and eat, because a lot of them have been displaced and they are, marginalized and disenfranchised. So they've been, taking care of these, the LGBT youth. So I went there just to meet other androgynous people, other pansexual people. And I'm listening to music one day in my headphones, and I lay on the couch and I started feeling vibrations all over my body. And it was like every atom of my body was tingling. And then in my ears, there was static, almost like shifting between uh, radio stations. And I closed my eyes And when I closed my eyes, I saw everything I had seen before closing my eyes, but I saw more. I saw more people. And just to test whether this was real, I opened my eyes and those extra people were gone. So I'm like, oh, wow. And I just settled into this. I wasn't afraid or whatever. I closed my eyes again. The extra people were back. And there was someone at standing at my feet. It was a woman, or it appeared to be a female. She had a mass behind her, like a mass of people. She said, "What did you guys do to Vincent?" That's my government name. "What did you guys do to Vincent?" And she walked over, and she didn't say it like chastising. It was like, "Oh, what'd you guys do to Vincent?" Like they were playing around. But she walked over to me. She knelt beside me, and her face was like this close to mine. I could feel the breath from her nostrils on my neck, and she kissed me right here. So when she kissed me, I said, "Oh no, one of these dudes just kissed me." And so I opened my eyes, and no one was there. And then I closed my eyes again, and I saw nothing. So knowing now about this zone, this spot, this is a psychic like awareness spot, psychic receptivity spot, to where if you stimulate it, you can open and close. It's like a valve, your psychic perception. So I believe that's what she had done. She had sort of closed it because I was going through a lot during my year off from school, a lot of psychic awareness.
And so, at what point, as you're going through this educational process, did you sense that you were called to help others in this way? Was that a gradual, like, oh, I can start helping people? Or was it a moment in time you felt a calling?
It was after I started making thingamajigs for myself uh, to affect change, doing magic, right? People started requesting their own thingamajigs. Oh, can you get me something to manifest a boyfriend? Can you make me something to manifest a job? What have you?
Tell people what thingamajigs are. And do you have some with you?
Yeah, I have some with me. So a
Okay.
thingamajig is I've sort of made up this term. I didn't make up thingamajig, but I make it to mean it's short for thing of magic, right? It's a talisman, it's an amulet, it's something that can be charged to help you to manifest things in your life, or get things out of your life. And I'll show you one of the first thingamajigs I made, and it's what really put me on the path of making thingamajigs. So this thing's really cool. This thing is composed of three different pieces, and I'm going to try not to waste what's inside. So you see the bottom comes off, right? Well, the cool thing about this, I found these three pieces. The middle piece is a ring, by the way, and then the top piece. I found these three pieces metal detecting, different days, different places. This is a gift that the Jinn world have given me. I have a way of finding lost things, and whether it be lost things that are physical or lost information, the occult, I will find it. It comes to me. And so something just told me to keep these three random things. I mean, the ring somebody might keep because it's a ring, but these two things on the end, they were pretty much junk. But something told me keep them. They're going to come in handy. And then it told me to put the three together. And there's no glue, there's no welding. It just screws together. And I filled it with, you hear that rattle?
Mhm.
That's gold. Those are gold nuggets. And this is used to imbue one's auric field with golden flecks for purity, right? To cleanse one's auric field. This was one of the first thingamajigs I made. And of course, it didn't look like this. I gold leafed it, but and I stuck an Indian head penny in the bottom.
Mm.
Yeah,
Beautiful, beautiful.
1895.
Amazing. And
Yeah.
so you started making these thingamajigs,
Yes.
and then people started asking for custom thingamajigs.
Yes. And one game changer, my cousin, when I was living in New Orleans, he asked me for a a, a snake. He wanted something with a snake, and this is what really changed things for me. My girlfriend, she said, "Why don't you record yourself making it?" And so I did, and I posted, and that's when people really started ordering. But what I made him, it was it was a skeleton key with two snakes, like the caduceus, right? This a central staff with the symbol for the medical industry. Two snakes intertwined, because snake has always represented healing and health and wisdom. Well, this is what has come of this, of my making that for my cousin. This is a pure silver Kundalini key. It's made of pure silver, and I don't know if you can see it too well, but I'm also wearing one. But it's got 7 crystals,
Mm.
one for each chakra. And so this one is actually worn to balance all of the chakras, bring the entire auric field into balance.
Do you personally make these through
Yes.
a metal, like a metal smithing project at your home, or?
Yes, I do this in my home. I handcraft them, and it takes a lot. It takes a lot, and it's painstaking. I don't know if you can see
Hmm.
my fingers.
Hmm. Sure, yeah.
Those are drilling holes and like burns from like hand, because I can't use like power tools because the work is so delicate. I use precious metal clay, and this precious metal clay is very difficult to work with. It will break at the drop of itself, at the drop of a dime or a hat.
Yeah, yeah.
But if you drop it, it will break. This is another Kundalini key, but this is for the root chakra specifically.
And the top, because I've looked on your website, what is the thing that's coming over the top of it? What is
Over
that
the,
made
yeah.
out of? Is that silver or is that leather?
Well, this.
The red part. Uh-huh.
Oh yeah, the red part. This is polymer clay. A lot of people think it's leather because of the way I texture it,
Yeah, it looks like leather. Yeah.
but it is clay, and very durable. But they're all charged, right? I craft them and I charge them. So I have those, one for a specific chakra. Each chakra has their own, but then the silver ones for all of them. And I'll show you. This is for working with the inner child. Can't really see it too well, but
So it's like a key that has, are those crystals that are hanging down?
yes, crystal. So this too is organite, like we were discussing.
Hmm.
Yes, it's you've got crystals, and there's a little heart there, and the key. So this is the key to working with the inner child and reconciling the past, integrating all the parts of ourselves we've lost due to traumas.
And now you have some others that are more like found objects that, do you have any of those?
Yeah. So let's see. Here's a large one.
Hmm. What is it? What is the name of this?
So on my website, I think it's something different, but I like to call it the Angel of Rebirth.
Hmm.
Yeah. And so this is one of a kind, actually. The others I've shown you, there's multiple of them, except for you know, the golden flecks, rather. There's only one of these two. So these are the ones that are really special, in my opinion. The ones with the found objects, uh, because you just can't replicate them, and there's a very specific energy.
And what would I do with this if I purchased this?
This is something you would keep on your altar, in your living room. It's just to attract a certain energy, right? So
Hmm.
this is renewing energy, bringing ever renewing energy to your space.
Beautiful, beautiful. So you, I see you. I have seen you at several events and expos. Where do you go? And when you're there, what are you offering?
Well, I will be at the Conscious Life Expo. I will be at Sedona Ascension Retreat. I love the channel panel as well. So I'll be doing a great tour out west. Other than that, I do smaller markets, and I've really just been at Savannah Rocks, working there consistently. And what was the other part of your question? I'm sorry.
What is Savannah Rocks, and what can people? experience there with you?
So Savannah Rocks is a crystal shop. So they
Savannah, Georgia, just so people know, Savannah,
yeah,
Georgia.
Savannah, Georgia. Yes, they sell crystals and stuff like that, and so they kind of wanted to branch more into the metaphysical. And so yeah, that's when they brought me on, and they have a not past life regression, a crystal healer. They have a medium actually.
And you do tarot reading there, is that correct?
Yes, I read the tarot there, and also I sell people my thingamajigs there as well.
Hmm. Talk to me about your name, Papa-yoni Das. What does that mean? And when did you take this name on and why?
I was very much involved with the Hare Krishnas, and I would stay the night there all the time. I almost became initiated. I was almost fanatical. I was chanting 16 rounds a day, which is not fanatical. You know, that's what all initiates do. Um, Following the four regs: no meat eating, no illicit sex, no gambling, no intoxication. I was so into it, and then I found things that Prabhupada, the person who started the Hare Krishna movement in America, the founder, things he had said that were racist, things he had said that were sexist, misogynistic, and I didn't like it. And Papa-yoni was a term, is a term used for women, for the darker complexioned people. India, we know has a caste system, and people called the Shudras. It said that they should be, Shudra should be of the darker skin complexion, and the Chandalas, the untouchables and like that. These are Papa-yoni. Papa-yoni, yoni refers to the female anatomy, and uh, Papa means sin. So one born of sin is what Papa-yoni means. The two words together. It refers to a person who has little facility for making spiritual advancement in their life, and I just sort of adopted it. I reclaimed it. Not that it was my culture to reclaim, but I reclaimed it like some people reclaim other bad words. So, I said, I'm Papa-yoni Das, and Das means servant. So, servant to those born of inauspicious circumstances. And really, if you ask me, there is no one that is a Papa-yoni. No one is Papa-yoni. We all, have God within. We're part and parcel of God, and no one is lower than anyone else. But still, being the servant, there's a saying in ISKCON, the Hare Krishna movement, you shouldn't aim to be the servant of God, really, not directly. You should be the servant to the servant to the servant. So Papa-yoni Das is servant to the lowest of servants.
How does that play out in your life? How do you embody that?
Last year, and I hope we can do it again this year. It's kind of late in the season, but my lady and I, we went singing, we went caroling, singing Christmas carols in the hospital. But other than that, I like to speak up. I'm very vocal. I'm a firebrand, and I'm very vocal on social media, and it can get me in trouble. It has gotten me in trouble, and that's okay. When I see people getting picked on, bullied, uh, I don't stand for it. I take a stand. So the way that I serve, the again, the marginalized, the disenfranchised populations of this world, I speak truth to power, and I study. I study, and I share my knowledge with people, and I'm ready to, put my brand on the line to defend those who cannot defend themselves.
I'm curious about the name of your, you say you would call it a ministry, which is AzaZealous Outreach.
Mhm.
And so I'm curious about that name, where it originates from.
So the base is Azazel, um, and I've coined a number of different spin-offs of that name. Azazealot is one who sort of follows my ministry. Azazealotry, the practice. But Azazel, we'd have to start with Judaism. There's a holiday, Yom Kippur, Jewish Day of Atonement, where they sacrifice one goat for Yahweh, and then they send a second goat off to carry the sins away, off to Azazel, the scapegoat.
Hmm.
And it kind of reminds me of Jesus, not to sound sacrilegious, because people attribute, sin and a lot of times evil to this name Azazel. But when you think about a scapegoat or somebody who's carrying the sins of the people, Jesus was known for that as well. They say he died for our sins, is what they say. So there's a lot of interesting correlations there. But yes, Azazel, he is seen as a malintended entity by many people, but he is misunderstood. Azazel is the name of the peacock angel, Melek Taus, or Tausi Melek, who is revered by the Yazidi people of northern Iraq. And they have had 74 genocide attempts against them, predominantly by Muslims, not to speak ill on either group. I'm just stating facts. Are these people really the devil worshippers? They've not committed any genocides against anyone. But yes, the peacock angel is synonymous with Azazel. It's the same entity. And we see this sort of, again, going back to duality, one goat going to Yahweh, one goat going to Azazel. We see the two brothers in many different cultures. We see Enlil and Enki, right? Which one's bad? They try to tell you, you know, but Enki, they say he was for humanity, right? But they also make him out to be the serpent in the garden, right? So we oftentimes have to. I know I'm probably getting off track here, but we have to look at what is down and what is up. What's when someone tells you something's bad, you have to really look at it, and that might be the good thing that you're being deterred or dissuaded from following. So Azazel is not evil. I just want to put that out there right now. He's not evil. Uh, uh, he's not the devil. He's misunderstood. He is the planetary logos. He is actually, and I typically don't call him Azazel directly. I call him Tausi Devi. Tausi means peacock. And so that's why I always wear the peacock over the third eye. He is the planetary logos. He is the highest in the hierarchy over this planet. And it's like a government. It's a spiritual government. Just like you have the Galactic Federation,
Hmm.
there is a government unseen on this planet. And Tausi Devi, Melik Taus, is at the top in my paradigm. And Tausi Devi has expanded himself into 6 archangels. So Tausi Devi, Azazel, is the leader of the 7 archangels. He's one of them. He's not God. He doesn't claim to be God. I don't claim that he is. So these 6 archangels are the processes: experience, expression, expansion, magic, metaphysics, and mysticism. These are the archangels. Each archangel divided itself into 4 angels, right? And these are whereas Tausi is the patron of presence, right? He is the one spiritual presence. The archangels are the patrons of process. Their subsequent angels are the patrons of principle. So the underlying principles to try and understand just what is experience, right? It's kind of a lot to go and try and understand something experiential without looking at the finer points of it, right? So in experience, we have the memory of it, right? We have imagination. There's so many things that go into an experience, right? So these are the principles underlying. Um, and I'll just go a bit further to say that those angels split into 3 different angels under them. Those are what we now call the jinn. The jinn started as angels.
I'm curious how you developed this paradigm, right? Where does this, is this something that comes from a particular lineage or a certain culture? Or is this a coming together of a lot of different ideas for you?
It is inspired by many different things. It is a synthesis. It is also a channeling. So I've channeled a lot of this information given, based off of my studies. I put myself in the vibration of these studies, and then added information will be downloaded so as to connect the dots.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of this is inspired by, everything. My motto is take the best, leave the rest. So Yazidism, Hinduism, heavy, um, all sorts of systems, things from the Bible, that you'll see in the Bible. Yes, those. So if I can explain, um, so there are 72 original jinn, right?
Okay.
72 original jinn, and each governs a particular region of the world, right? So this is how we connect with our jinn family and with the angels through the jinn. Um, what's your ethnicity?
Jeez, man. I mean, I'm as white as it gets. Come on. I mean,
There's no white.
probably
There's no white. You're not white.
Germany, Europe, my
Okay,
guess is. Yeah.
German. Okay, so there's a lot of magic. So you would be under the archangel of magic, which is Sirael, right? And so under Sirael, there are four particular angels, principles, and I won't get too deep into it. But once you go below that, and when you find out you said Germany, so yeah, the particular regions of Europe, right? They carry particular aspects that the jinn correspond with. So they actually deal with you in your life. You carry with you, by dint of your DNA, particular jinn, right? They interact with you. They empower you to do certain things in this world. Manifesting is a big thing for you, right? And I'll just give a short rundown. I won't get too deep into the jinn, but I will tell you about the archangels. Africa is the place of experience. Why? It's the root. It's the cradle of civilization. Um, and from there, as humanity, anthropologically speaking, we migrated out of Africa first into Asia. And this is the place of expression, right? The continent of expression. So the archangel of expression, Peiveniel, actually that's their domain, right? And so from there, from Asia, we migrated into Australia, and so that is the domain of expansion, right? Verachiel, they call. And these names, by the way, are they have a Kurdish root. Um, Sihir means magic, um, and so every continent has its overarching process that empower the people on that continent. And when you go further into a particular region, whether it be east, west, north, or south of that continent, and then even deeper dealing with the jinn, particular countries, then you have certain things that you're more inclined to do. So let's take Europe, for instance. Europe is governed by Sihrael, magic, right? And we can see that in that magic is all about affecting change in your environment, right? As opposed to metaphysics, there's a distinction. Metaphysics is really about going within and working with the energies within, the ideas, dreams, like that, subtle energies. Magic is taking that subtle energy and affecting change in your environment for others to see the dream come true, the ideas come to fruition, making concrete changes. And Europeans have done that historically very well throughout the ages, right? They go to all the corners of the world and they set up shop and what have you. It's just a fact, right? We can talk about colonialism and what have you. But what they've done is magical. Um, may not have always been done in the best way, but it is an expression of the process of magic
Mhm.
and their particular jinn that have to do with that.
Mhm. So for you on a daily basis, what does it look like for you to work with your gen?
Mhm.
Practically, what does that look like?
So I'll meditate and I'll chant a mantra with the name of a particular jinn, and I'll switch it up, because I myself uh, am mixed ethnicity, and so I have many different jinn that inherently work with me. Not only do I have the jinn of West Africa and the countries and regions in West Africa that are, that empower me. I also have the jinn of Scandinavia because I'm about a quarter Scandinavian. Really, so my mother's father, my grandfather, is mostly Scandinavian. So I have those too. And so, I'll take whichever one. If I need to cultivate a little bit more magic, manifesting, I'll work with them, right? If I need to get more experiential, deal with some, some traumatic experiences, right? I'll work with the West African ones. And also, uh, I have access to the ones of the Americas, of North America, right? Because North America, that's those jinn are the jinn of metaphysics, right? South America is the jinn of mysticism. So, being born in Gary, Indiana, and living in the states, I have access. We all have access to particular jinn of our states as well. I'll chant mantras, I'll make offerings, and I'll just be conscientious because again, they're always around us. They surround us all the time. We cannot see them, but they're there. Um, they influence the processes of our bodies, right? People say, an indication that God is real is that we breathe without thinking about it. The heart beats unconsciously, without our having to do anything. God does not do that directly. God has hands, right? And the jinn are the ones closest to us. They are the intermediary between us and the angels. And then the angels are the archangels are a bit far more removed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, working with the jinn is one of the best things you can do because they are our closest neighbors and they are affecting us directly.
Mm-hmm.
Right. If the angels want to affect us, typically they go through the jinn, unless you need a really big wake up call. And you don't want you typically don't want that. You don't want angelic intervention, typically.
You have had angelic intervention. You know what that feels like.
Yes, yes. And what to speak of archangelic intervention? So don't try to jump too high. Serve, be a servant to the lowest of servants. Serve your fellow man, not in being self-serving, but really serving your fellow man, serving the jinn. And don't, God doesn't want you to really jump too high. And that's a whole other concept too, because like I said, Tausi Devi is not God. Melek Taus is not God. There is a God above Azazel, and that is Khodevi. Khode, as said by the Yazidis, that's what they call. Khode means a creator who created themselves, and that is the person who created actually the peacock angel, Melek Taus.
Hmm.
Yeah. So and she has, and it is a she. She has nothing to do with what happens on Earth. It's been left into the administration, uh, the governing body of this planet. She has nothing to do. She's out in the cosmos doing her thing.
Before we wrap up, the question that is coming to me most intensely is why do you do what you do? What drives you? What motivates you?
I want people to gain their own spiritual sovereignty. I want people to take control of how they are evolving, how they are ascending, because we're always expanding. One of the processes, right? These processes are happening all the time. We're always expanding. Question is, are you expanding in a favorable way or an unfavorable way? And if you follow these processes and try and understand the underlying principles and the practices, that's why we call the jinn the patrons of practice. It's active, right? And you do that, you begin to live life a lot more consciously and with intention. And I've seen it to where people start to do this work and their lives are a lot more curated, I'll say. Things don't just happen, and of course they get blessings from unexplainable, there's still going to be that, but they are actually manifesting the lives that they want. It's because they're working with these energies that they know what they're working with.
It seems like that spiritual sovereignty is just a huge emphasis for you of having embracing the power that you have to create the life that you want and to experience spirituality in a way that is curated. It is not something that is being programmed, passed down to you by your relatives, or shoved down your throat by culture. You are having the empowerment in order to experience God consciousness source in whatever way that you feel called to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You've got to have your own connection with it. It's great to be, born into a system. That's fine. Don't I advise I promote not just being stuck to what you were born into, but expand. That's the whole mission. When you ask me my mission is for people to come together and expand, travel the world, get new perspectives, because ultimately what we and I'll tell you, in my system, the Temple of the Peacock Flame, we have people go through the process of working with the 72, right? To understand, to come into uh, the patron of presence, right? To embody that within themselves. But it's a whole practice of working with each of the energies, right? Mixing is what we promote in this system. Mixing of perspectives, right? And it's so very strange, I have to say, if I may, it's so strange, and it goes to show how young we are as a human civilization on this planet, that we do have all of these different ethnicities still very, you know, um, isolated, right? It's so odd. It's so odd that Africa is the place of the dark people, and the Europe is the place of the light people. I try not to say black and white, but it's so odd, and it goes to show that we have not embraced love. Ultimately, when you boil it down to it, and that is a thing that is hindering our ascension planetarily, as a whole. Uh, Extraterrestrials, you want disclosure, you want to come into, cosmic consciousness in a galactic family. This is one of the things that is almost like a prerequisite. We have to come together more in the unity, in vibration of love. And when there are calculated efforts to divide people and harm people just on differences, that cannot be. um, so yes, we have to come together, and we cannot be attached to identification,
Mhm.
identities, right? We have to surrender that, because the future, what it really looks like, we're going to look a lot different than we do now as these pockets of humans. We all may be a certain beige complexion, with hazel eyes, you know, and we cannot be afraid of that. But you have people afraid of that. You have, that's what the system of racism is about. That's what, a lot of capitalism. I don't want to get too deep here, David. Don't. Yeah. And I know, people have different conceptions of this. I don't know how. You say you grew up in a conservative Christian environment, but ultimately I'm sure we can all agree that we have to unite in love, and if we're not, that's a problem.
Without a doubt, without a doubt. Tell me, where can people connect with you online now, I know you sell your thingamajigs online. Do you do readings with people online or just at Savannah Rocks?
Mostly at Savannah Rocks, but people can contact me, and I do uh, over the webcam tarot readings, and they can contact me through my website. You can get to my website many different ways, so whatever sticks to your mind better. Covencurio.com will take you to my website. AzaZealous Outreach will also take you to my website, AzaZealousOutreach.org or .com.
We will link in all of those places. You got to start doing the readings online. I mean, people need your magic through the power of the video. People would love that. Yeah, of course, of course.
Yeah, technology is something to get a hold of. I don't want to get left behind, David. Help me.
Yeah. Just use Zoom and yeah, people would love to connect with you, of course,
Right,
across the
right.
world. Papa-yoni, thank you so much for sharing your story, your wisdom, your system, your creativity, your essence. I just appreciate it. I'm inspired by the way that you one, are willing to express yourself, two, your synthesis of the education that you, right, all of the learnings that you have, you're synthesizing it all. And I'm also inspired by your desire to help those who are in need, right?
Mm, sure.
So I appreciate you sharing all of that today. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much, David. It's been so fun talking with you. I hope I didn't, go off in all different directions and confuse anybody, but yeah, it's been very fun. Thank you.